Hello, check. Good morning. Let's go ahead. We are doing CA, inter, tax, direct tax, NTTI, and under NTTI, we have now entered the most important part, that is heads of income. We are studying the first head of income in class, but income tax law mein it is the second head of income. For classroom convenience, we are doing house property before income from salary because it is an easy chapter. So the faster you answer, the better it is going to be for you and me. Also because as some of you are aware that major part of the class is going to attend the evening lectures for the next few days. So you will have to increase your participation levels so that we are interested in continuing the way we are. You will have to quickly answer. Name of the chapter? Income from house property. Charging section 22. Charging section means it is this section which makes your house property income taxable. Correct? There are three conditions to tax an income under house property. Three conditions. Condition 1, building. Full or part? Both. Residential or commercial? Both. Building के साथ में along with building if there is land, is that fine? Yes, but only land is not okay. There has to be a building. Condition 2, you have to be the owner. So owner will include legal as well as deemed owner, but subletting will not be covered here. And third, you should not be using it for the purpose of your business. Building, owner, not doing business. When you fulfill these three conditions, the income will be taxable under income from house property. The money that you will receive will be rent, but you will not be paying tax on the rent so received. Tax will apply on the annual value. And what is annual value? Capacity to generate rent, which is actual rent or market rent, whichever is higher, because in property transactions, wherever there will be land involved, there will be cash involved, and therefore actual rent or market rent, whichever is higher. Is correct? Hai? Then we went to the three categories of property. Because of the annual value concept, it is possible that one house which you have purchased for your residence, uska bhi there is no actual rent, but there will be market rent, and they are taxing your market rent. So we will not let that happen. That house will be called self-occupied property. And what is tax benefit under self-occupied property? Annual value will be taken as 0. Matlab you don't have to pay tax. But if you give your property on rent, then that will be declared as let out property, and you will pay tax on actual rent or market rent, whichever is higher. So if a property is used for residence 6 months and given on rent for 6 months, so you have to do proportionate SOP and LOP, right? Kya? Haan. It is going to be considered as let out property. One day also you give on rent. Don't say yes in everything. Think before you speak. If you give it on rent even for one day, it will be considered as let out property. Correct? Hai? And then under SOP, we will allow you to classify maximum 2. If you are keeping properties locked, we will not let that happen. And therefore, after 2 self-occupied properties, any third house will go and get classified under deemed to be let out property. Even when you are not earning any rent, the market rent will become taxable. I think at this third point, we ended the last class. Correct? Hai? Okay, let's go ahead. Point number 4, which is in the introduction of income from house property. Okay. If you are earning rental income from property, it will always go under income from house property. Rental income from property will always go under income from house property. Dekho, unlike your salary and business, rent is an investment activity. You invest in the property, then you go home and relax. You are not involved on a day-to-day basis once you hand over the property to the tenant. But still, because Indian economy mein, this is a very, very big source, we have created a separate head. Now that we have created a separate head, you have to classify your rentals in this, subject to the 3 conditions, building owner, not doing business. Once these 3 conditions are fulfilled, you don't have the option of putting it under business or other sources or anything. You have to put it under house property only. अब आप बोलेंगे सर if the head of income is created तो we will put it there only. No, नहीं. There are some people who make renting their regular activity. What is my daily work? I invest in property and I give it on rent. Full year ka I earn rent. I save money from that. In the next 2 years, I save rent and I buy one more property. Now 2 properties के rent से in the next 2 years I buy one more property, and every time I have savings I invest in property and give it on rent. Giving properties on rent को I have made my regular business activity. Still you will put it under house property. Even if it is your daily business, you will put it under house property, because we have created a separate head for that. So you have to keep the dignity and respect of that head. So rental income from property will be classified as house property, even if it is your daily activity, regular activity. And second, even if it is your stock in trade, even if it is your stock in trade. For example, real estate developer has unsold inventory, and with the last point that we studied in the last class, by now we know that if up to 2 years from the end of the year of CC, if he is not selling that property, unnecessarily DLOP ka provision will get attracted, and without earning anything also market rent will become taxable. So to solve that problem, what is the developer doing? Isse better to I give it on rent on someone, to give it on rent to someone. At least I will earn and pay tax. Till the time I don't get a proper customer for my property, I am giving it on rent. Correct? Hai? Is this my stock in trade? Yes, because I am a developer. That means I am making money from stock in trade. So developers were trying to claim that, sir, any income earned from stock in trade should be classified under business. But we hereby make it clear, even if it is your stock in trade. Matlab suno, is selling of properties your business? So when you sell that property and you make profits, you put that money under business. But that renting activity ka money will always go under house property. Rental income from property will always come under income from house property, even if it is your regular activity, and even if the property is your stock in trade, we will always classify it under income from house property. Do you understand this? Clear hua? By the way, just for your general knowledge, on this issue, a case law took place. Supreme Court का judgment है Chennai Properties and Investment Limited. You all are intermediate students. You all are not supposed to learn judgments as such. उस judgment में the name of the company, if you observe, Chennai Properties and Investment Limited. In the memorandum of association of the company, they had written that we are memorandum में they write no object clause. Object clause में they had written our company is created only for rental business. We will not be doing anything else. The whole objective behind existence of our company will be rental. There won't be any other activity only that we will be doing. And when this matter went to Supreme Court said that if that is the case, it's not a regular activity, it's the only activity, then allow the company to call it business income. Ye case law hua, correct? Immediately after that, Government of India amended the law, and they wrote in this section, rental income from residential property will always be considered as house property, even if it is your only business. Sir, matlab, this line is now working with only one small catch, that in the amendment brought, they wrote residential. Matlab, agar commercial property hai and giving on rent is your only business, you are not doing anything else, तो फिर आप business में कर सकते हो. But then that's knowledge of case law, which, you know, salary and house property as chapters have been removed from CA final syllabus, because ICAI now believes that they are too basic. के final के बच्चों के लिए already there is so much to study, so they don't want you to study salary and house property. तो ये case law है which you unfortunately will not be studying even at CA final, because the chapter is removed. And inter में you don't learn, because inter में case laws are not a part of it. Then in your entire direct tax journey of inter and final, you will never get an opportunity to learn this. इसलिए I had to tell you. But then exam POV ये कोई relevant नहीं है. Exam purpose से all you have to learn and go is rental will always come under house property. Story over. Clear है? हाँ. Chennai Properties and Investment Limited. So what are you going to do? Ask ChatGPT today. इसके बारे में बताना होगा. क्या मिलेगा? Truly appreciated. ये इंटर के बच्चे ऐसा कभी, they don't volunteer that if I will get time I will read the case law. If they get time they watch reels. nahi. I truly appreciate if you are putting effort, and you are so lucky that you don't, you don't have to even Google. You have to tell Chat GPT, Chennai Properties and Investment Limited का केस लॉ का जिस तो I have also told you डिटेल में if you want. अगर आपको इंटरेस्ट है, I always encourage. Thank you so much. Thank you. चलेगा, शाम को भी आप देंगे ना तो. चेन्नई प्रॉपर्टीज के जजमेंट के बाद में वन मोर असेसी का केस लॉ टुक प्लेस. अगर आपको अभी इंटरेस्ट ही है तो आई ऑलवेज एनकरेज दिस. नेम ऑफ द असेसी रायाला कॉर्पोरेशन प्राइवेट लिमिटेड. ये भी सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जजमेंट था. यहां पे द चेंज इन फैक्ट वाज ओनली दिस मच. मेमोरेंडम में दे हैड नॉट रिटन एनीथिंग, लेकिन दे डिड नॉट हैव एनी अदर एक्टिविटी. तो यहां पे सुप्रीम कोर्ट बोला दैट सो व्हाट इफ नथिंग इज रिटन इन द मेमोरेंडम, एट द एंड ऑफ द डे दूसरा कोई एक्टिविटी नहीं है ना, तो अलाउ देम टू कॉल दिस आल्सो बिजनेस इनकम. अगेन सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजमेंट. After that, Supreme Court said we are following our own judgment of Chennai Properties and Investment Limited, and memorandum में लिखा और you write or you don't write irrelevant, we are still going to call it business income. एक सेकेंड. इसके बाद थर्ड केस लॉ took place, राज दादरकर एंड एसोसिएट्स. अगेन सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजमेंट. राज दादरकर के केस में he was doing renting as a very big business, but he had some other businesses also. So Supreme Court said, going by my previous two judgments, at least renting should be your only income. If you have other incomes, then you will not be allowed to call it PGBP, you will have to call it house property, which is the basic rule written here. The only reason why we allowed Chennai Properties and Rayala Corporation was because that was the only income. But after amending the law, वो भी only commercial properties के लिए apply करेगा. So residential property में तो story is over long ago. It will be always income from house property. So if you are if you are interested in extra learning, you know, I am the happiest person on the planet because I always want it that way. Very good. तो आपको जब भी time मिले, these are the three cases. Problem is that you are too intelligent to write this. एक सेकंड के लिए, or maybe you've been taught so well that you know things which even CA final students don't know. But unfortunately the problem is that the person who is checking your paper, वो 150 rupees per paper वाला paper checker will only get a copy of suggested answer from ICAI and try to match the answers. If that answer does not match, so that paper checker does not have the brain to know कि what you have done is good or bad, और उसको यही लगेगा कि you are bluffing or you are writing rubbish. So you know, you don't have to write correct answers, you have to write what they write in suggested answers. There have been historically cases where suggested answers में ICAI has made mistakes, but someone who has written that has scored marks. आप समझे? Okay. Amendment, all these three case laws के बाद में amendment came in 2023 का budget. All of them was about, the last case law year was about 6-7 years ago. But all three of them were about residential, not commercial. नहीं, Chennai Properties had everything. Residential भी था, commercial भी था. They had all of them. So for residential property they brought this rule. मतलब commercial के लिए you can still use the case laws. It has to be only commercial. It cannot be mixed. Now, नहीं, only rental business हुआ तो you can offer it to PGBP if it is commercial property का rent. तो supposingly renting is your only business, you don't have any other business. You have rent from residential property and commercial property. तो commercial का you can put it under PGBP, but residential will always go under house property. And if we finally put a comma or a full stop at where we have to study for CA intermediate, तो इतना ही है that you will be asked about residential properties and you have to always put it under income from house property. Story gets over there. Clear hai? Chalo. Next point and last point in the introduction of income from house property. Thereafter we move to the calculation, where the biggest calculation that we learn is calculation of annual value. So yesterday a student asked me, sir, how to determine this annual value? Well, we have been given a calculation about how to determine the annual value. ठीक है? तो last point. Supposingly you are getting something called composite rent. Supposingly you are getting something called composite rent. Composite rent matlab you have given your house on rent along with some other assets. Is that possible? Something as simple as a house with furniture? Possible? You will have to go and check whether it is possible to separate the two letting out transactions. Whether the two lettings are separable or not separable. Matlab, the option given by the owner to the tenant is, the rent of my house is 1 lakh per month. Bol, you want sofa, dining table, furniture, etc. So 1,30,000 per month. He is giving you an option. So 1 lakh is the rent of the house and 30,000 is the rent of the furniture. Very easy. But there is another possibility that he has already brought sofa, dining table, etc. Because one thing you need to have common sense to understand, furnished house will always bring a higher amount of rent. And now he is saying, I have already got it, bro. So you don't expect me to throw these things now. Now you will have to take with furniture and pay me 1,30,000. That means the two amounts are not separable. When the amounts are separable, it is very, very easy. The rent of the house will be taxable under income from house property. I am writing house for convenience. This chapter covers residential as well as commercial property. We are aware of that. So property ka rent will go under house property, but then as far as rent of your other assets is concerned, which in our example is which asset? Furniture. Get one thing very, very clear. This is the important thing. When we started the chapter, what is the first word we wrote under conditions? Building. Matlab this chapter will include only rent of building. Other assets ka rent can never come here. Where will it go? At the beginning of the chapter, I told you furniture ka, plant and machinery ka rent will not come here. So where will that rent go? Option 1, giving furniture, plant and machinery on rent is my daily business, daily activity. So I will write it under PGBP. And if it is not my daily activity, so I will write it under IFOs. TBH. Pata hai? To be honest, it is none of our business right now. Where will it go? Sir, suno, this composite rent ka chart that I am making, this same thing I will repeat in IFOs. At that time, I will want you to give me the answers. Do you understand? So house ka rent will go under house property and other assets. Is that clear? And when the two amounts are not separable, means you have that one consolidated lump sum figure of 1,30,000, where segregating it into two amounts is not possible. This is the important thing that you should know. This will not come under income from house property, because this 1,30,000 includes rent of other assets, and it will contradict the very first word written in the chapter, which is rent of building only will get covered here. It will not come here. Yeah, listen to the next sentence. I think it will solve the problem. It is okay if house ka rent goes in some other head. It is okay if house ka rent goes in some other head, but other assets ka rent cannot come under income from house property. So where will this go now? What are our options? Think about it. It is not salary and capital gains, obviously. So either it will go under PGBP or it will go under IFOS. Now you will understand. I think in your batch or evening batch, one of the students asked about, sir, hotel room given on rent. Evening batch. Hotel ka room given on rent. Hotel ka tariff that you pay per night ka jo tariff hai, you don't pay that only for the premises. Usme you don't tell them that I want only a place, remove the bed, remove the TV, remove the AC. They provide consolidated bundled facilities. Correct? Eh? That means you don't have the option of asking them that in the per night charge that you are taking from me, how much is the amount for the room and how much is the amount for other facilities. There is no breakup. That can't come under house property. Now obviously hotel ka daily business, because they give rooms on rent every day. So hotel wale ka income will go under business profession. But supposingly you have a bungalow in Lonavala Serviced apartment, fully furnished, which you are giving occasionally on rent during the year. So then it will go under IFOS. In fact, Lonavala bungalows ke andar to there is one helper also whom you can, but then they don't do it on a regular basis. See, end of the day, you write under PGBP or you write under IFOS, you have to pay tax. समझ में आता? It won't come under income from house property. And this chart will be repeated in the chapter IFOS. At that time, I will not explain. I will ask you. Separable to kya rule hai? Not separable, then what is the rule? You will have to tell me. Can I expect that from you? हाँ तो बोल रहे हो. IFOS will happen after almost a month. चलेगा? Okay. The only good thing is that now we will be having a breakless session except jo Diwali ka 2-3 days, whatever is the custom of the organization. Okay. So till the time I finish the syllabus, we are going to meet on a daily basis. I am going to ruin all your mornings now. Thank you so much. You wanted to ask something? Asset ka amount different. I didn't get you. Irrespective, then also it will not come under house property. Now you can have a practical question about this. Okay, sir, I have given my house on rent with furniture. And I am ready. With the grace of God, I have some practical experience as well. So I have given my house with furniture because we all believe that furnished house always brings more rent, higher rent. So sir, hum to house property mein show kar rahe. That also you don't know where your family members are showing it. So, but they will be showing it or they are showing it under house property. I can say that without checking. Q, when you have had an agreement with your tenant, in that agreement you have not mentioned only about the furniture. So on paper, to this point only is not getting activated. On paper, it is only renting of the house. It is an understanding between you and your tenant that there is some furniture also. So I am taking deposit agar damages hua to, and you will involve the broker and take the security deposit. But paper pay in that leave and license agreement pay, if you don't mention about furniture, so this 0.5 does not come into picture in your practical situations. This is where what we learn in class as the law written in theory and what happens in practical life sometimes differs. But fair enough. We should learn theoretically, and once you start your articleship, you'll get to learn quite a few things practically as well. Articleship kahan karna hai, kaisa karna hai, we can have a separate 2-hour session only for articleship guidance. Pehle syllabus. So ladies and gentlemen, that's your introduction of the chapter income from house property. Point number 1, 3 conditions. Building owner not doing business. Point number 2, we will pay tax on annual value. Point number 3, properties will be categorized into 3, SOP, annual value 0, LOP even if 1 day, and after 2 SOPs, we will put them under DLOP. Point 4 and point 5, what we did today, rentals will always come under house property and composite rent ka discussion. Once we are done with the introduction, we now have to go and learn how to do the calculation. Matlab theory is over, concepts are over. Now, how to do computation of क्या हुआ keep one AC on बाकी आप they are making you do the work, take money from them. Oh, AC हो गया तो CA करना. हाँ. Computation of income from house property. Every time you get a question on computation of income from house property, you will solve it in the following format. So as a student, you are always anxious to know, sir, what should be the presentation, how to write the answers. So no, it is not accounts where every chapter you have a balance sheet where left side will be liabilities, right side will be assets, debit side, credit side. This is not accounts. Here, the presentation of your answer will change chapter by chapter. So in a chapter like residential status, when we do residential status, there is hardly any presentation. We just have to see number of days. But scope of total income, there is presentation in columnar form. The moment we go to house property, this is how we will solve the question. House property being an easy chapter will come for 4, 6, aisa kuch mark. If you know how to exploit your paper pattern, let me explain that also. Your 50 marks mein se first 30%, that is 15 marks will be MCQs. So you're left with 35. 35 mein se 15 mark ka first question, compulsory question will be on PGBP. PGBP is 15 marks. alone. तो 15 plus 50 30 gone. अब बचा 20 marks. Understand ना? This is where you can exploit the paper to get maximum marks. 20 marks के लिए you will get 3 questions of 10 marks each where you have to attempt any 2. मतलब there is an option here. MCQs compulsory है, PGBP compulsory है. In the last 20 marks there are 3 questions of 10 marks. The 30 में से you have to attempt any 2. But देखो इतना common sense you all have. You have question 3A 3B, 4A 4B, 5A 5B. You have to choose question 3, 4, 5 में से any 2. You can't do 3A plus 4B equal to 10 marks I have attempted. इतना common sense you all have. So you will leave 3, 4, 5 any one of them. So you will do supposingly 3 छोड़ दिया. So you are doing question 4 and 5. Now both of them will be 10 marks का main question, but there will be sub parts. It won't be one question of 10 marks. So that 10 will be further subdivided into 4A 4B, 6 plus 4, 5 plus 5, 7 plus, it can't be 9 plus 1. No, MCQ में they will ask. You understand that therefore the weightage of an individual question can be only 4, 5, 6 marks. And when the weightage of an individual question is only 4, 5, 6 marks, this part becomes very easy. They can't ask a very difficult or complicated or big or lengthy question for only 4 marks, 5 marks. Because paper pattern only is like that. And in this part, the scope of total income ka question, one of the return filing ka question, maybe a small question on calculation of income from house property. They will ask you here. And it is possible to score more than 15 out of 20 here. PGBP maybe it is easily possible that you can, if you follow the things that I tell you in class, at least 12, 13, 14 to I guarantee. 15 out of 15 also good number of students are scoring. Not to boast or self-promotion, but the fact is my student has got more than All India rank 1 in the recent exam because he followed the instruction. Another guy got more than All India rank 3 in tax because there are certain set of instructions in PGBP if you follow. He got 15 out of 15 in that PGBP का question. इंटर की बात करो, MCQs में he got 15 out of 15 because there are certain instructions that you have to follow. Okay, so you will target that last 20 marks. In fact, let me tell you here itself, when you start attempting your tax ka paper, you have 50 marks DT and IDT. Between them, which one you want to attempt first, I will not influence that decision because I've accepted the fact of life that CA students like IDT more than DT. Because it is easy, it is small, it is scoring for all the reasons. So it is very much possible that you attempt IDT first. And then IDT ke liye you should not be allocating actually 1.5 hours because that 50 marks is easy. So you should try to do it in less than 1.5 hours. Keep the major time of your paper for DT. Now when you come to DT, before IDT or after IDT, first you will attempt the last 20 marks because that is going to be the easiest part. Then you will attempt 15 marks ka PGBP ka question. Because in that question, if you make one adjustment wrong, you lose 1 mark. Last में you will come to MCQs. Because MCQ में if you make one calculation error and choose the wrong option in the OMR sheet, you lose full marks. In fact, there will be case study based MCQ. One story they have given and story pe they have asked 3 questions. If first question ka answer is wrong, second and third will depend on that. So all 3 will be wrong. You won't lose 1 mark, you will lose 6 marks. So MCQs are also of 2 types. Case study based MCQ 6 marks and 6 marks. 2 stories. 6 and 6 12 हो गया. 3 marks बचा. One difficult MCQ of 2 marks, single, without related to any other story, and one easy MCQ of 1 mark. So after completing the subjective part, first the last 20, then PGBP, come to MCQ, attempt that 1 mark wala, then attempt that 2 mark wala single question. Last May you will do the case studies because that is the riskiest part of your question paper. One calculation error and you directly lose 6 marks. So risk return ratio ke hisab se you should always go for the reverse order of solving your paper. But ultimately choice is yours. If you were to take my suggestion, it has to be like this. So whenever there is a question on house property, this is the pro forma. You know, every time you learn a new chapter in accounts, the teacher tells you, कि ये format hai. This is the format. You will give the heading. There will be particulars. There will be 2 amount columns. Right now, it's only a pro forma. So we don't need very big amount column. When we solve actual questions, उस time पे we will obviously need big amount columns. We will start with the first amount, that is gross annual value. What is the significance, role or relevance of annual value? In this chapter, bro, annual value only is your taxable income. Correct hai? To start with gross annual value. Obviously, we will learn how to calculate, and GAV also as a short form is accepted in exam. From the gross annual value of your property, you will subtract something called municipal taxes that have been paid by the owner. First, let's make the format, then we will discuss everything that we are writing. So, सबसे first step, GAV. From GAV, we will subtract municipal taxes. We will get something called net annual value. That is NAV. Once we calculate the net annual value, this chapter is also going to give us some deductions. So, there is one category of deductions which we get from our total income. We call it deductions under chapter 6A, where our life insurance, medical insurance, in fact, we also studied about special economic zone. And then there are some deductions which we get in our individual heads of income, that this deduction can be taken only if you have house property. So, we have two deductions. First, we have section 24 clause A, something called a standard deduction, which will be calculated at the rate of 30% of your NAV. We will take this deduction in the inner column because we have one more deduction under section 24B. If we have any interest on borrowed capital, if the property was acquired through loan money, borrowed capital, so will we be having some interest on loan? We will take deduction of that interest on loan, and after taking deduction of that interest on loan, we will get our taxable income from house property. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. This is the small, short, sweet format in which we will be calculating income from house property. Step number 1, calculate something called the GAV. GAV matlab gross annual value. This is the biggest and the most important calculation, because what is the role of annual value? Annual value only is taxable. The capacity of the property to generate rent. At least in the introduction, we have already understood that what do you mean by capacity of the property to generate rent? The actual rent that you have received or the market rent of the property, whichever is higher. So we will learn GAV as a calculation, very big calculation. Once we know what is the capacity, this is what we have to pay tax. Lekin income tax has a basic principle. Unlike indirect taxes, which apply on the gross amount, income taxes will always apply on the net amount. A thumb rule of income tax is that whenever there is any expenditure incurred for the purpose of earning income, whenever there is any expenditure incurred for the purpose of earning income, so we will get deduction of that expense. So supposingly my property has good capacity, which I have calculated in the form of GAV, but every immovable property, in order to get support from the local government, every year the local authority, the municipal corporation, will charge something called your annual property taxes, municipal taxes. They are known as property taxes. So whenever you pay maintenance of your housing society, at least once in a year you will get higher maintenance, because in that bill you also have to pay the property tax of your property. Now think about it. My property has capacity, but some portion of my capacity will go away in the form of expenditure incurred to pay the property taxes. So will my capacity reduce? So we will take tax on not the gross value but the net value. Ye clear hai? While we want to take tax on the net value, again, other than property taxes also, as an owner, as a landlord, you will be incurring some more expenses. Think about it. Property taxes have gone to the municipal corporation, but is that your only expense when you give a property on rent? No, sir. No, sir. I'll tell you. Supposingly your property requires some repairs. Abhi, internally, if there is any damage, then tenant is liable. But if there is any external leakage issue, if there is any external issue, so that repairing ka job or responsibility is on the owner. So will you incur repair ka expenditure? Just to let you know, general knowledge, the housing society, the cooperative society in which this property is situated, it is going to charge maintenance. Maintenance is not paid by the tenant. Maintenance is always paid by the owner. In fact, when you give your property on rent, understand what is happening. Society के point of view से understand that it is my building. In my building, you have a property. From that property, you are making money by giving it on rent. But society ka loss is happening because your tenant is using the lift, is using the common areas. Society is incurring cost on your tenant, and you are making profits out of society ka common areas. So society increases maintenance of properties given on rent. As per Maharashtra regulations, MCS, Maharashtra Cooperative Society bylaws, the maximum that housing society can charge extra is 10% of regular maintenance. So if regular maintenance is 100 rupees, you can, for rented properties, charge maximum 110. So you guess if highest allowed is 10%, so how much society charge? 10%. Correct? Hai? This expense has to be incurred by the owner always. Practically, you can always ask, sir, aisa kya to if I reduce the rent and tell the tenant only to pay the maintenance, then you are not incurring the expense. Matlab you will not get the deduction. But it's a strict advice, don't do that. Because after a point, the tenant who has been regularly paying the maintenance, because you're charging less rent, will show the payment receipts, and you never know, one fine day end up claiming ownership because possession is with him. So he'll say possession is with me. Possession is very important as per Transfer of Property Act. Then he will say that I am only paying the maintenance. This is my property. And let Bollywood show anything that gundas come and throw your stuff outside the house. It is not very easy to make someone vacate your property and then go into the court battles and all. So always maintain your ownership status by you being the person who is paying the maintenance. So repair will be incurred by the owner. Maintenance will be incurred by the owner. Is it possible that to safeguard my property, I have taken some insurance, I am paying premium? As an owner, I am incurring many expenses on my property over and above the municipal taxes. And income tax ka principle is that we will give you deduction of expense. But at the same time, we don't want to increase the burden on the owner to keep record of every single expense. One day plumber is coming, we are keeping his bill in the record. Another day we are paying municipal tax, we are keeping that record. Third day we are paying insurance premium. Fourth day we are paying society ka maintenance. Look please, this is investment income. This is not my business that every day I have to go and sit over there. When I do business, I will keep record of every single transaction, every single entry. I will keep record of every single income, every single expense. So PGBP ka computation ka rule is what? Actual income minus actual expenses, net profit is taxable. But house property mein the investor ko, we can't expect him to make records or keep records of every single expense incurred. And thus on a notional basis, income tax law assumes that out of 100 rupees ka capacity, 30% is going to be your expense. And we will take tax on 70%. We are assuming that as an owner, to maintain the property in the form of repair, maintenance, insurance, you have incurred 30%. In this 30% notional standard deduction, we are covering all your expenses. You will not get any separate deduction for your expenses. Abhi, it is possible that your actual expenses are higher also, lower also. Generally, it will be lower. Then people are very happy. 30% ka deduction. Matlab my expense is only 10%, but I am getting deduction of 30%. In a rare case, when it is higher, it were those people who wanted to put it under PGBP. Because PGBP is actual income minus actual expense. So, if you think about taxpayer POV, you know, at that time when we discussed Chennai properties, you could have asked, sir, how does it matter? You have to write it in PGBP or house property, how does it matter? Ultimately, you have to pay tax wherever you write it, no? Then why was this case supposed to go, or why did it go to Supreme Court? What was the need to go to Supreme Court? Ultimately, you are willing to pay tax. So, no, when I write an income under house property, I pay tax on 70% of my income. Ignoring the fact whether my actual income is 80% or what, I may not have any expense. But when I write my income under PGBP, I take deduction of actual expense. Or let me put it this way, if my actual expenses are less than 30%, I will like to put it under house property. And if my actual expenses are higher than 30%, then I preferably put it under PGBP, is where the dispute arises. But now we have solved that dispute, and house property, because you are an investor, we don't want to put burden on you to keep records of every single entry. Matlab PGBP ka introduction is happening here itself. PGBP mein we will not take any notional basis. This 30% is notional only. PGBP mein we will take actual. Ye clear hai? And then listen, there will be two types of house owners. One who is flooded with funds and with own funds has acquired property and is incurring society maintenance, repairs, etc. So that is covered in 30%. But then there is another guy who does not have money and who has acquired the property through loan. In fact, it is a free financial management advice that even if you have money, you take some amount of loan on the property. Because if I am telling you I am the owner of the property, how do you know I am really there? There are people who have sold Taj Mahal. Huh? Bunty and Bubbly. They have sold Taj Mahal. Bank has to disburse the loan. The bank will ask for certain documents. Supposingly, I want to buy your property. You are claiming ownership. The bank will ask for shared certificate. Shared certificate mein your name is there. Maintenance receipt mein your name is there. Society is giving NOC in your name. There will be something called chain agreement. Chain agreements matlab before you, who was the owner? You must have purchased that agreement. That owner purchased from whom? That agreement. First time when this building was constructed, at that time the developer gave an allotment letter to the first owner of this house. From that date till your ownership, all the original agreements you have to keep every time you buy the property. Then your agreement with me is also an original agreement, and that original shared certificate. That full set of documents will go to the bank. Then only bank will disburse the loan. So as a buyer, I have satisfied myself that you are genuinely the owner. I can probably forget a document or not check a document properly. Bank will check every single document properly, then only pass your loan. So you have to buy a 5 crore ka property, your bank account mein 8 crore is lying, still take 5 lakh ka loan. For 5 lakh also bank will do all the investigation. Then you have funds. Once your transaction is done, property is registered in your name, shared certificate is transferred in your name. If you don't want to pay interest to the bank, repay the loan because you already have funds. Alternatively, second free financial advice is that don't repay the loan because bank interest on home loans is too less. So you keep that 5 lakh also with you, invest it somewhere, you will earn return on that investment 12, 13, 14, 16% per annum, and it is easy to pay 8% interest on that home loan. Yes, a financial management. The tax perspective, point is simple. The person without loan will get same standard deduction, and the person with loan also gets same standard deduction. The borrowed capital wala properties ka owner, for them it is unfair, and for this reason interest is the only deduction that we will give separately. Matlab standard deduction will cover anything and everything, but standard deduction will not cover two things: municipal tax which we have taken against GAV, and interest deduction which we are taking along with standard deduction under NAV. This is how it will get calculated. Okay. Now, if we want to finish the chapter, what do we have to do? You have to save a photograph of this format in your mind. Because what we are going to do is, we are going to give the heading gross annual value and learn that, and highest time will be taken in GAV. The remaining will not together take that much time. In fact, it is quite possible that whatever remaining time we have in today's class will be consumed in GAV. But supposingly GAV is over and we have 10 minutes also remaining. So we will get done with municipal tax, net annual value, standard deduction also. So what will we do? Give the heading GAV, learn it in detail. Finish hua? You can't say harsh. Nahi. Now what to do? Give the heading municipal tax. Then give the heading NAV. Then give the heading standard deduction. Then give the heading interest deduction calculation. 5 concepts we have to learn. After that, there are 3-4 general concluding points. As introductory points, where we have some general closing points of the chapter. Chapter will get over. Clear hua, everyone? So one by one, we have to study this format. Learning this format only is learning the chapter income from house property. Everyone is with me? So first thing that we will learn under income from house property is the calculation of GAV, that is gross annual value. Calculation of GAV, that is gross annual value. Seven steps का calculation, big long calculation. था क्या आपके TY BCom graduate हो ना? Science till TY सही. तो CPU वगैरह ठीक कर देते मदरबोर्ड में. कभी होगा तो आई लेट इट. अच्छा ऐसा क्या? Normal commerce graduates here, you must be having house property at least in your TY tax. But वहां पे they directly give you the GAV का amount. Here you have to learn the 7 steps of calculation. Okay, I will not tease you for graduation. I remember that. Okay. यहाँ पर we have to learn the 7 steps of GAV calculation one by one. So long calculation, complicated calculation, don't get into the complication. One step at a time, one by one. One easy step, one easy step, one easy step. In fact, in your whole preparation for your CA intermediate exam, if you come across something very, very complicated like audit or law or subjects like these, you audit as a subject, you are not finding it difficult. Everyone is finding it difficult because what is written, no one understands only. And the reason why people don't get marks in audit is your extra enthusiasm of writing everything in simple own language. Audit as a theory subject requires you to write language of ICAI. So unless and until you have written the language which ICAI expects, own words mein you will write, you won't get marks. Okay. So the rule is a big, long, complicated thing you break into small, easy, understandable parts. So don't focus on 7 steps. Focus on one step at a time. Every time we want to calculate gross annual value, step number 1, we will have to find out something called the municipal valuation of the property. Step number 1, municipal valuation. About this step number 1, municipal valuation, I will tell you three things. First, the meaning. Second, where will you get this in real life? And third, more important, how to find in exam. Real life में finding and exam में finding the answer is different thing. First, what do you mean by municipal valuation? Abhi, some time back I told you, municipal corporation will levy something called annual property taxes. So municipal corporation will find out what is the rent generating capacity of your property. So this is the annual value of your property. Annual value means rent generating capacity. But this is annual value of your property as per or according to the calculation of the local authority. Means your municipal corporation believes that your property can generate this much amount as annual rent. Annual value according to or as per the local authority. In fact, it is this annual value on which in accounts you must have seen rent, rates and taxes. That rates and taxes is this one, on which the local authority applies your annual property taxes. Let's take for example, the rate decided by local authority is 10%. That means they are going to charge 10% annual property tax. On what value? According to them, your property can generate rent of 1 lakh per month. Example. So they don't levy property tax on a monthly basis. If 1 lakh per month is the capacity, so what is the annual capacity according to them? 12 lakh. On that they will charge that decided 10% property tax. So that annual value as decided by local authority. Matlab this is annual value only, but not computed by income tax department, computed by the local authority. This may not become the final answer, but we will still take it in our calculation. We will give respect to the calculation done by local authority. And now because the point has come, let me have this discussion also with you. Let me have this discussion. That every local authority in its jurisdiction, whichever immovable property is there, uska 2 values they will compute. One, annual value, that is rent generating capacity, on which they will levy property taxes on a year-on-year basis. And the local authority also will calculate another value called the stamp duty value of your property. That is the market price of your property, the sale value, possible sale value of your property, market price. Do you understand? Rent of a property is different from selling price of the property. If a property is generating 1 lakh rent per month, the selling price maybe will be 4 crore. So municipal corporation will determine both values. Why? If they want annual property tax, they will use the annual rental capacity that they have computed, that is called municipal valuation. But supposingly you buy a property. If you buy a property by paying a massive sum of 4 crore rupees, will you want to register that property in your name? Every time you want to register a property in your name, you will have to go and pay the local authority a tax called stamp duty. This is always charged on the buyer. It changes from state to state. Maharashtra mein it is 6%. And along with that, they levy registration charges. As per government rule, you can charge highest 30,000. So guess how much they charge? 30,000. In fact, you have to pay some money to the housing society also for change in share certificate. Again, as per Maharashtra Cooperative Societies Act rule, highest that the society can take is 25,000. So guess how much the society takes? 25,000. But we are talking about stamp duty. Stamp duty as a tax will be calculated at 6%. On what? On the market price of the property. So no, as computed by local authority, that is called stamp duty value. मतलब stamp duty value पे stamp duty will be charged on the buyer. और seller के लिए what role that stamp duty value will play? Did we discuss के capital gain में भी it is actual or market price whichever is higher? It is actual or stamp duty value whichever is higher. हाँ, वो capital gain में. But here we are discussing the rental value, and you have understood that rent generating capacity and sale value of a property will be two different amounts. So municipal corporation will compute that rent generating capacity also. This will be used for annual property taxes, and name transfer के time पे they will use the stamp duty. Understood? So this is the annual value as computed by the local authority. ये है meaning. Now question 1. Sir, if I want to find out the annual value of my property, how do I find out? First of all, when they will send you your annual property tax ka bill, in that bill it is already written. Property tax ke bill mein, what is the capacity? In fact, these days, municipal corporation, at least in Mumbai, I can tell you very, very confidently, that municipal corporation has given this facility. Earlier, what used to happen? They used to charge property tax on the entire housing society. Then poor guys, the housing societies ka management had to sit down and apportion that on the basis of square feet area of individual unit. Because 1000 square feet ka house and 300 square feet ka house, you can't be charging the same property tax. So they used to apportion that total, divide by total square feet into your square feet. Usme bhi aisa rule hai that if your house is less than this much square feet, to zero hoga. No annual property tax. So we have to only consider the square feet of the remaining properties, then divide by total, then apportion, and then recover it from the house owner, and then pay it to the government. Abhi recently, Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai brought this concept that property tax ka bills, instead of sending it in the name of society, we will send individual house owner ka property tax bill. So that now society will not get involved. It is between you and the local authority. If you don't pay your property taxes on time, they will stop your water connection, electricity connection, everything is under their control. So now you deal directly. Usme se you can get. If real life mein you want to know, where can you get? Second option, there is a website called readyreckoner.in. Ready Reckoner. Over there also, matlab online also, if you want to find out the value of your property, you have to enter state, state mein city, city mein district, district mein pin code. Once you enter pin code, in that area, all the roads ka name will come. Roads are pin code wise. So supposingly you put Mumbai 4, you put, you'll get SVP road, VP road, you'll get all the roads coming. On the road, you will write building number, because if you have observed or not observed, so next time observe. On one road, there will be buildings on the right and left side, and they have been given building numbers. One side it is odd number, one side it is even number. So they will say building 11 by 13, building 12 by 14. The per square feet rate is this much. So if your house is in building 11 by 13, this is the per square feet. Now you check what is the square feet of your property. You will get your municipal valuation. Correct hai? Everyone? So exam mein kya, they will give you a tab, internet enabled, on which you can visit the website Ready Reckoner. Then put the details of the property. Kya itna interest ke sath you are listening? Obviously nahi. Exam mein the municipal valuation obviously is going to be given to you. So what have you as a CA student done in your answer paper so far? Nothing. Municipal, kuch nahi. Municipal valuation is given in the question paper. You are only writing it. You haven't done anything. See, learning concept first time in life is one thing, and hereafter solving questions on this chapter is very easy, because all the amounts they will give you directly in the question. But still you should know the concepts. So first concept is municipal valuation. Okay. Second, fair rent. Concept of fair rent मतलब क्या? What are you guessing? गोरा गोरा. Fair rent means what? Reasonable rent based on various factors. Reasonable rent based on various factors. Answer fast. Will the value of your property, both market price as well as rental value, change on the basis of which city your property is? City में area में which area में it is? Area में which road? In fact, inside the lane or main road also changes. On the same road, two buildings next to each other, will the rates be different? Same building, different floors, rates are different. Higher floor, higher value. Same floor also, if one of the properties is sea view and other is slum view, the rate will be different. Floor area, if different, then obviously the rate will be different only, no? Bro, we are living in a cosmopolitan city called Mumbai, but it is a fact. The value of your property will also change on the basis of religion of your neighbor, food preference of your neighbor, religion of your neighbor. Sorry? Surroundings, obviously. Okay. So do you, of course. So it does change the value of the property. Correct hai? Where do you get this? You know that is area mein this much is the rate, or that area this much is the rate, or this building is expensive. If you want, I will take you to some other building. Real life mein you have these property brokers, these agents. In fact, agents have a very, very big role to play in influencing the value of any property. Once agents spread good or bad news about a property, that this is golden property, you should not miss this. Yeah, this is not at all a good property, there are a lot of issues. So the moment someone tells you there are issues, you'll be already hesitant in buying or renting a property over there. The best way to find out is, if you are interested in buying a property somewhere in that building, that place, you take a property on rent for a couple of years, convince yourself that it is worth. Then, once you have the funds, you buy it. So that you have first-hand information. But real life, it is this agent who will tell you what is the ongoing rate of the property. So obviously, exam mein agent will come along with you. And fair rent also is going to be given to you in the question. All the short forms that I will write here will be. एक चीज I'll make it clear, unless and until with respect to a particular short form I specifically mention that don't write this short form in exam, it is not accepted. So till that time it is always going to be accepted. Okay, fantastic. So what have you done till now? Nothing. Municipal valuation given in the question, fair rent given in the question. You're too innocent, bro. You are, it's okay even if you're not. In fact, the older generation understands it. Gen Z ko to tang, sorry for the language, tang farak nahi padta who is the neighbor, as long as the neighbor's wife is sharing good relations. It is in fact the older generation who is very strict about it. So broker will tell my mother, if you are asking, I was not interested in telling this, but if a broker comes and tells my mother, auntie is building mein sab jain hai, auntie does not want anything else. I didn't want to say this, but if you are telling someone that this building has a Jain temple, you then see the difference in rates of the property over there. ये fact है. If you have brought this up, believe me, I did not want to consume your time with respect to this discussion, because it is always, teaching is always adjusted on the basis of the crowd, audience ka taste, and I have experience of 15 years. I can always adjust according to what audience wants. The moment audience tells, "Ke sir, abhi samajh gaya, fatafat karo na," so I have got no problem. I visited, my cousin wanted to buy a property in an area called Baikala, in a very, very famous name, reputed developer. I will not name the building or the developer. He wanted to buy property. He is flooded with funds. He is in gold market business. He has got endless funds, but he does not know how to talk to, because of the proper typical Marwadi that he is. He does not know how to talk to the salespeople. And builder का sales team में there is another level of scam. What they do is the moment you go for a site visit, the prettiest looking female in their sales team will be sent forward the moment they know that it's a rich businessman who has come for a visit. And she'll be like, sir, which, but I don't fall for those traps because I have seen a lot of pretty faces in my life. So she's like, sir, aisa. My cousin, point blank on her face, asked, will there be people consuming non-veg food in this building? Then I don't want to buy. Gaya rate property ka. I would have asked this question indirectly, but he asked because he is not educated. He asked it on her face. Ye chod uska reply soon. This is not very interesting. The reply is more interesting. She said, sir, floor number 11, 12, 13 are non-veg floors. Other floors, it will be only Jain community, sir. This is what shocked me. मैं बोला क्या? Can you hear yourself? You think you know what you are saying? And my cousin is like, बिचारी बोल रही है तो नहीं देगी ना दूसरे फ्लोर्स पे. I told him she is not bichari. And secondly, I asked her, ma'am, perfect. We fully trust you. Now please write it in the agreement. They can't. They won't. और एक बात बताता हूं, if 10th floor पे या 15th floor पे a Parsi wants to buy, builder will get money, he will sell it to you. उस टाइम पे बिल्डर थोड़ी आके चेक करेगा that I had promised someone that only 11, 12, 13 है. But rates do get influenced. I didn't want to get into this discussion. It's actually a real life story. I often, in a lot of places that I go, I want to give, some events, some facts from real life that I have experienced over the years, which can give you a better knowledge of the taxation, the whole thing. But then, as I told you, we always adjust the way we do on the basis of audience taste. So, ये fact है, bro. ये fact है. मैं तो एक लाइन में बोल दिया था, religion का neighbor का religion decides value of your property, या neighbor का food preference decides value of your property. You should have understood this in short, but every time you want me to, I have got real life experiences about almost every section. Okay, chali. So you understood this, that as far as examination is concerned, till now you haven't done anything. Municipal valuation given, fair rent will be given. Correct hai? Now I'll give you two examples. Okay, supposingly municipal valuation is 12 lakh. But broker brings you a customer who is willing to offer say 14 lakhs. So how much you will start expecting? 14. Because if someone is giving, I'll be happy. Other way around, municipal valuation is 14 lakh. Broker brings a customer, a client who is willing to giving you an offer of 12 lakh. What is your expectation now? What will you tell that guy? Kaisa thodi, at least pay me that much. So that means you have answered the question of what is going to be the expected rent of any house owner. Municipal valuation के fair में whichever is higher. Municipal valuation or fair rent whichever is higher. समझा? So what have you done till now? बोलना मत sir, I've chosen whichever is higher. You have not done anything. What have you done? Nothing. Municipal valuation given, fair rent given, expected rent is going to be whichever is higher. Next, standard rent under Rent Control Act. Standard rent under Rent Control Act, SRRCA is the short name. Before I explain what this is, you should first know that this may not be there always. This is a subject of the state government. Whether standard rent will come or it will not come will depend on the decision of the state government. For example, we do have a Bombay Rent Control Act, but there may not probably be a Goa Rent Control Act. There may be a Gujarat Rent Control Act, but there may not be a Madhya Pradesh Rent Control Act. This is a state government subject. So whether to have a Rent Control Act in our state or not have, it is the decision of state government. We are learning for CA exams, so it is pan-India exam, income tax is pan-India law. So if that state has rent control act, then this point will come, otherwise this point will not come. We will say not applicable. What is this rent control act? Once you give your property on rent to someone, there will be a system of some rental increments, but there is an upper cap that you can't increase rent beyond this much, because we want to protect the tenants in our state, because most voters are tenants. We want to bring some laws in favor of tenants, and thus there is an upper limit that you cannot charge more than this. Now think about it. You had very high expectations, but the moment your state brings into picture the rent control act, do you realize and agree that you have to put a restriction limit or stop your expectation? Correct? Eh? And thus, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, this rent control act amount also is going to be given to you in the question. Obviously, your state has or does not have, that also they can't tell you to guess, they have to give you. So if there is rent control act, they will put it, and what you need to understand is, whatever be my expectation, I won't get more than this. Acha, aisa hoga that there is some stupid tenant who does not have knowledge of rent control act. I am asking for a higher amount and he is ready to pay, because that idiot does not even know that there is rent control act. If someone is giving, that's a different thing. But as an expector, as someone who wants rent, I will not be able to expect more than this, because my state has put an upper cap that will restrict or limit my expectation. So how is this going to influence my calculation? Let us take some numbers here. Supposingly municipal valuation is 10 lakh and fair rent is 11 lakh. What am I expecting? 11 lakh. But when I went and read the rent control act of my state, I realized that as per rent control act, I am allowed to charge only 10 lakh 50,000. So do you understand? I will have to now reduce my expectation, and I will have to keep my expectation up to a maximum of 10 lakh 50. If my tenant does not know the law, that's a different thing. But if someone who is expecting rent, I should not be expecting more than 10 lakh 50. And this is where the fifth step will come into play. Fifth step, the concept of annual letting value, which is ALV. One more name given here, reasonable letting value, that is RLV. So ALV, RLV are one and the same thing. They are just two different names, like Virat Kohli and Chiku. It is one and the same. Okay, ALV, RLV. Annual letting value, reasonable letting value is basically that finally, as per government, this is market rent. Achha, by the way, market rent is not the final answer of GAV. What is GAV ka definition? Actual rent or market rent, whichever is higher. All these amounts are for determining the market rent. Of course, we will compare it with actual rent. And what will our GAV become finally? Whichever is higher. But what is market rent? You were expecting 11 lakh. But now because of standard rent, you will have to stop your expectation. And accordingly, ALV is going to be expected rent or standard rent, whichever is lower. ALV is going to be expected rent or standard rent, whichever is lower. Okay, let's get this thing clear. One, if there is no standard rent in your state, which will not be given in the question if it is not, so expected rent only will become ALV, because this point, aisa pagal ki tarah, you don't write this 0 and say 11 or 0, whichever is lower. No, this point is only not applicable, and not applicable means directly expected rent will become ALV. Second thing, do you remember deemed to be let out properties? Deemed to be let out properties mein there is no actual rent. This is market rent. ALV is the GAV of those properties. Normal properties which we have given on rent, what are we going to do? This market rent ko we will compare with actual rent. But in DLOP, there is no actual rent. So this is only going to become my GAV. You understand? So ladies and gentlemen, till now, what is the GAV calculation? There are totally 7 steps. But we are till now done only with 5 steps. And out of those 5 steps also, 3 amounts given to you in the question. What are the 3 amounts given to you in the question? Municipal valuation, fair rent, and standard rent, if applicable, will be given. And how easy it is to determine market rent, at least for exam perspective. Step number 1, fatafat, municipal valuation given. Step number 2, fair rent given. Step number 3, expected rent, whichever is higher. Step number 4, standard rent given. Step number 5, ALB or RLB, RLB, expected rent or standard rent, whichever is lower. Here now income tax law is done. Finally, at least with the examples that we have 10.5 as our ALB. Here the income tax law is telling you, we are done. Now tell us your amount. At the beginning of the chapter, they told us what? We will not take actual rent, we will take market rent. Okay, so supposingly your actual rent is only 8 lakh, 9 lakh, 10 lakh, we will still take tax on 10 lakh 50,000. But still they want to know, batana, how much have you earned? 8 lakh, we will take tax on 10. 9 lakh, we will take tax on. But by chance there is a tenant who does not have knowledge of standard rent, and that tenant by chance has paid you 12 lakh. So that actual rent which we were otherwise going to ignore, guess kar, that actual rent is only going to become GAV, because GAV is not market rent. Annual value is not market rent. Annual value is market rent or actual rent, whichever is higher. We have computed the market rent. Now what are we going to do in the 6th step? We will compute our actual rent. Acha, by the way, we don't have to compute actual rent. Actual rent is what the tenant has paid me. Obviously, it has to be given to you. What is the actual income on? You only have to learn the law. Facts they have to give you. So actual rent is also given. That means question is not going to give us 3 amounts. Question will give us 4 amounts. Municipal valuation, fair rent, standard rent, actual rent. Municipal valuation given, fair rent given, expected rent whichever is higher. Standard rent given, ALB whichever is lower. And ALB or actual, out of these two, ladies and gentlemen, whichever is higher will be equal to GAV. What is GAV? Today we have the definition, ladies and gentlemen. अच्छा, some of the theory subjects that you study, ऐसा कोई टीचर का सिस्टम है क्या that concepts को convert into songs and then make you repeat, and ऐसा कोई नहीं करता. So should I or should I not? Now I am under confusion. चलेगा? I will start singing a song. The moment you understand the lyrics and the tempo, you join. ऐसा नहीं कि I keep on. You have to join also. Beat के साथ you have to vibe with. You are the vibe वाला generation. Aura farming, वैसा. वो कुछ और है. And Riz, वो सब. अरे कोई एक स्टूडेंट आके वन डे टोल्ड मी, पुकी सर मैं समझा नहीं बोल. हाँ, तो you all understand these things. Vibe. हाँ. What is GAV? Lyrics पहले शॉर्ट में. ALV or actual whichever is higher. इतना lyrics. What is GAV? ALV or actual whichever is higher. ALV or actual whichever is higher. We decided to vibe, no? तो इतना है, lyrics learn हो गया. What is GAV? ALV or actual whichever is higher. ALV or actual whichever is higher. Understood? ALV will be computed in 5 steps from 3 amounts, and actual will also be given. Ladies and gentlemen, at this stage, that way we can feel that array, yaar, GAV is done. But the real complications of GAV calculation will start now. Matlab, can you believe this? The calculation which we wanted to do, we have derived. And now we are going to do some R&D, some analysis, some complications of this. Are you clear till now? What is capacity? Capacity is actual rent as given, or market rent is ALV computed using 5 steps. What is GAV? The heading that we wanted, GAV. What is GAV by definition? ALV or actual, whichever is higher. Have we computed, derived that GAV? But now the complications will start. Because when it comes to actual rent, there are 2 possible amounts here. Please understand. I had given my property to someone at an actual rent of 12 lakh. At an actual rent of 12 lakh. But is it possible that from that 12 lakh, the tenant has not paid me some amount? There is some unpaid amount of rent. You can call this rent ka bad debts. Possible hai? The tenant has not paid me rent of 3 lakh. That means How much is the received rent? GAV का definition repeat for me. What is meant? ALV or actual, whichever is higher. What is the ALV that you have computed for this assessing? 10.5. In actual, now we have two amounts. Actual receivable or actual receipt. If I compare 10.5 with this amount, so whichever is higher will give me answer of 12 lakh. But if I compare 10.5 with this amount, so whichever is higher will give me 9. Means whether actual receivable has to be taken or received has to be taken is going to influence my answer at least. Correct? Hai? Rule will not change. ALV or actual. ALV, there is only one amount. Actual mein I have two possibilities, received or receivable, and whichever I choose will change my answer. So the question that we have before us is, will I get deduction of unrealized rent? So no, what is my question? Will I get deduction of unrealized rent? If your answer is yes, I will get deduction, so your comparison will be here. Because I am getting deduction. If your answer is no, I will not get deduction, then you compare these two. So whether I will get deduction of unrealized rent or no is the same question as whether I will take received or receivable. But ALV is not going to get affected. ALV is as it is. Matlab, this whole discussion is about under actual which one to take, received or receivable, or reframe the question, will we get deduction of unrealized rent? You understand the question here? For getting this deduction, there are some conditions prescribed. Matlab, can you believe this? We wanted GAV, we have derived the GAV, we have decided the sum, ALV or actual, whichever is higher, and after that we are doing discussion. There are some conditions. Suno dhyan se. If we fulfill the conditions, so we can take deduction of unrealized rent. That means we will pay tax on ALV or received rent, whichever is higher. If we dissatisfy the condition, still it is ALV or actual, but then we will take receivable because we won't get deduction because we have not satisfied the condition. You understand? So what are the conditions to get deduction of unrealized rent? Condition 1, the tenancy should be bona fide. Means you should have done a proper leave and license agreement. ऐसे oral agreement पे you shouldn't have given it to someone on rent. It should be a legally recognized tenancy. Otherwise, how will you prove that I have bad debts? Agreement में there will be one amount. Bank statement में there will be another amount with which you will be able to prove the amount of bad debts. No? So there has to be a legally recognized tenancy. Second condition, is this tenant chore, not giving your money? 3 lakh in our example. So what should you do? Make the defaulting tenant vacate the property. Make defaulting tenant vacate the property. See, someone is not giving you your rent, then why are you allowing that person to occupy your property? Make the defaulting tenant vacate the property, or at least initiate steps. It is possible that by the end of the financial year, you were not able to make him vacate, but at least initiate steps. When they say initiate steps, it does not mean like Bollywood, you go to his house and start throwing things out. Give a legal notice that you are not giving my rent, kindly vacate the property. At least you have started the process. No? If you start the process, your condition is fulfilled. Understood? At least initiate the steps. Supposingly, you have not made him vacate the property. You have not even given him notice. So, kya it's a crime, you will go to jail? No, we will take receivable rent. See, the conditions that are given here, whether you fulfill them or you don't fulfill them, is not going to decide whether you'll go to jail or not. The conditions are receivable ke receive. Fulfill the condition to receive. Don't fulfill the condition to receivable. Between received and receivable, whatever is your answer, compare it with ALV, and whichever is higher will become your GST. Condition is only to get deduction of unrealized rent. Only that, nothing else. Okay. Is it possible that you have given multiple properties to the same person on rent and he is not paying rent of one of these properties? This property you are going to make him vacate? Tell him to vacate all other properties also. Chore is chore, no? If he is not paying you rent of this property, that means he is chore. Don't let him occupy any other property also. Make him vacate. Which one? Same person, it is possible you have given 3-4 properties on rent. I am your tenant. I have taken your 4 properties on rent. In one of the 4 properties, I have not paid you 3 lakh rupees. Correct? Am I a defaulting tenant? So this property you will make me vacate. That is second point. But the remaining 3 properties also, you tell me to vacate. Because if I am a chore for one property, I am a chore for all the properties. So make the defaulting tenant vacate this property, make the defaulting tenant vacate all other properties belonging to you. Don't let him occupy any of them. And if you have love and affection for him, we don't have for you. Then we will take receivable rent. If you don't want to force someone to leave your property, so we will take receivable rent. Correct hai? And finally, take legal action for recovery. Is that someone not paying your dues legally because tenancy is as per agreement? Whenever somebody does not give your rightful money, go to court. File a case against that guy. Take legal action. Show some sincerity towards your recovery. If you are not interested in your recovery, that means you are not very sincere about it, then we will also take receivable. Take some legal action. File some court case against the defaulting tenant for not paying your money. But here the practical difficulty will come. What is the amount that I have to recover from this guy? 3 lakh. Uske liye, if I will go to court, I will spend 5 lakhs. Plus, there will be time lost, energy lost. Last may I may not even win the case, or even if I win the case, I'll end up spending more than what I'm getting. So, don't waste your resources. If you feel that legal action is going to be wasteful, so convince your assessing officer that legal action is of no use. Convince the assessing officer. Go and make your assessing officer, the officer in the income tax department, understand, sir, that if I file a case for recovery of 3 lakh, I will end up spending 5 lakh. So either you file a case or you observe this, please. Either देखो, convince the assessing officer, convince him, cash or kind, convince the assessing officer that taking legal action is going to rather result in losses. Samjha? If you fulfill these conditions, broker नहीं, lawyer के through. गुड मॉर्निंग, क्या नाम है आपका? पानी दू? नहीं. लीगल एक्शन हु विल टेक ब्रोकर? नहीं. Most of these real estate brokers, no, they are part-time gundas also. So instead of going to the court wala route, we actually approach them. Okay, देखो ना bro, he is not giving me. So that guy will go and give 2 tight slaps to your tenant. So that is another way of, good way of recovery rather than going to court. But if we go to court legally and officially, we don't go through brokers, we go through lawyers. Kya mix up hai bro? 2025 is the year of unexpected collabs. Yes, please.
So, in the third point, what if you have given your tenant 3 properties and he's not being able to pay rent for one, but the other 2 is paying on time? Then you have.
So, third point basically means that chore is chore for that property or for the other properties. The problem is not the property, the problem is the person.
He's paying your properties, no?
तो you are having love and affection for him because he is paying you rent for your other. सुनो मेरी बात. Don't make him vacate. No, don't make him vacate those other properties. But then expect the willingness also to pay tax on receivable rent. हाँ देखो, you not making him vacate other properties will not send you to jail. It is only that you don't want him to vacate other properties. You are happy with him. Then be happy in paying tax on receivable rent also. Point वो है. So conditions को you have to observe only from the perspective of received के receivable, nothing else. Fulfill the conditions, take deduction, then compare received with ALV. And if conditions are dissatisfied, तो receivable and ALV. But GAV का song remains unchanged. No. What is GAV? ALV or actual, whichever is higher. ALV or actual, whichever is higher. Actual में which one to take, received or receivable? Well, bro, it will depend on the conditions given. Correct है? Now then, at the end of the sixth point, do we expect, observe and believe कि अरे यार सर ये तो GAV तो done है. But then there is one more step. मतलब can you believe what income tax law is? We wanted to calculate GAV, we have GAV. Answer has come, still we want to continue to calculate. ऐसा ही है. Welcome to direct tax. Real direct tax has actually started now. अब तक तो time pass was going on, and pre-result is तो always time pass on. वो बना ही उसके लिए. One more step, despite the fact that we have actually completed GAV. So before we start the step, I want to make this thing clear. Whatever answer you get here, it will never become the GAV, because GAV will always come from point E and F, and between E and F also which one? Higher. Between E and F also higher. G will never become the GAV. Then why are we doing this? We are doing this step for comparison. Now I will first tell you a problem, then उस problem का solution is this point G. We will have to first understand the problem. If you don't know the problem, you will not understand the solution. Supposingly I buy a property on the 1st of April, thinking that I will get some rent on it as an investment. I start searching for a tenant. I am not getting any tenant. April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, gone. Finally, from 1st of January, somebody has taken my property and paid all the rent properly. Matlab, there is no unrealized rent. Means I have received rent of Jan, Feb, March, 3 months during that. Clear hai? So actual rent is of 3 months. Actual rent is the amount at step 6, that is F. 3 months ka. But we start the calculation with first step, municipal valuation. Municipal valuation will always be full year ka value because they levy property taxes on an annual basis. The municipal valuation is full year ka value. Reasonable rent, the broker ka rent can be, per month or per square feet or anything. But if you want to compare it with municipal valuation, you will have to take the annual amount, because you can't compare per square feet with an annual amount. So municipal valuation is annual amount. Fair rent will be annual amount. Matlab expected rent will be a figure of 12 months. So with that, for comparison, again standard rent also we will take 12 months. So what is ALV ka period? ALV ka A itself is explaining that. It's one full year ka rent, ALV. But unfortunately, I have received rent only of 3 months. Here is the problem. Okay. In order to explain the problem, I will have to make some dirty hand gestures in front of you. Will that be okay? Will that be okay? My right hand is point E, that is ALV, that is a 12-month ka figure. Everyone is with me? But my left hand is F, that is actual rent, which is only a 3-month ka figure. ALV 12 months, actual 3 months. E, ALV, F, actual. I can't compare these. But dirty gestures matlab yahi tha. E 12 months, F 3 months. I can't compare. If I compare a 12-month ka figure with a 3-month ka figure, obviously ALV will be higher. That's not fair. To be fair, I am giving you two options. Option 1, ye jo ALV hai, this is actual, no? If this is 12 months ka ALV, so how much will be 3 months ka ALV? Divide by 12 into 3. and then they are comparable figures. That's one possibility. Second, let ALV remain as it is. Actual rent is this F. If by chance there was no vacancy and I would have had a tenant from day one, so the tenant would have paid me for these 9 months as well. So bring the actual rent at the 12-month figure. Means if this is 3 months, so how much is 12 months? And ICAI always follows this second option. Brings actual rent to ALV ka tenure of 12 months. Because I'll explain the logic behind that also. This year you have tenant of 3 months and ALV of 12 months. Next year the tenant is now going to continue. So next year both figures will be 12 month ka figure. So next year the comparison is going to be this only. So from this year only you increase that actual rent by adding the vacancy period ka rent. So we can't compare E and F. Why can't we compare E and F? Because they are different period ka amounts. So what are we going to do? We are going to compare this last amount, where we will do what? We will take the amount at point F. What is the amount at point F? Actual rent. And in this actual rent, we will add the vacancy period ka rent. Matlab 3 months ke rent mein we are adding 9 months ka rent. So that this as a 12-month figure becomes comparable with ALV, which is also 12-month ka figure. Matlab comparison we will do between not E and F this time. Comparison will be between E and G. E is 12 months. G is also 12 months. How? F was only 3 months, but we made it 12 months by adding vacancy period rent. Matlab my question is, are these two amounts full year amounts? 12 months ka figure? Yes. So can we compare both of them? Correct. But wait. Answer of GAV has to be between E and F. Because G wala step I started by telling you this. G can't become GAV. It was done only for comparison. Means compare E and F. Sorry. Compare E and G, but choose between E and F. Rule is whichever is higher. समझाता हूं, don't worry, don't make that expression. By the end everything will become clear. If E is greater than G, matlab ALV is greater than not just your actual rent, but when actual mein vacancy period we are adding, still ALV is only higher. Matlab bro, taxpayer, you are only the chore. This year your actual is lower because of vacancy, but next year also your actual will be lower only, because even when there is no vacancy, ALV is higher. So then in that case, E being the higher, वैसे भी whichever is higher only becomes the answer. No, what is higher? E will become GAV. But if G is greater than or equal to E, matlab listen, see if you understand. Assessee is honest. Poor guy, his F wala amount is lower only because of vacancy. I'll explain. E 12-month figure, F 3-month figure. This F has to be lower, but when I added vacancy period, so my actual rent became higher. That means why is my actual lower? Only because of vacancy. Had there been no vacancy, so I would have shown a higher amount. In fact, next year my actual will be higher only. Only this year there was vacancy. That means I am honest assessee. And if I am honest assessee, so whatever I have earned, you take tax on that. And what I have earned is not G. What I have earned is F. Matlab, we have to show GAV as whichever is higher. E is higher, E is answer. But if G is higher, then F will become the answer. G will never become the gross annual value. If G will never become the gross annual value, then why are we calculating? Only for comparison. Matlab rule is this: E, F, G. Be clear about this. Dirty gestures come. E, F, G. E, F, G. Compare E and G, but choose between E and F. Compare E, don't compare with F, compare with G. And here choose whichever is higher. If E becomes higher, so E only will become answer. But if G becomes higher, So F will become answer. If E is higher, E is answer. But if G is higher, F is answer. Comparison will be between E and G. Answer will be between E and F. Okay, एक काम करो. Tell me this. What is GAB in our song? ALB or actual, whichever is higher. ALB or actual, whichever is higher. Correct है? If ALB is higher, what's your answer? ALB. If actual is higher, what is your answer? Actual. But my actual is lower because of vacancy. So for comparison, what am I doing? Not comparing with F, comparing with G. So if G becomes higher, that means my actual is higher. That means my actual is answer. But my actual is not G. My actual is F. G is done only for comparison purposes. फिर देख लो एक बार. Okay, horizontally देख लो. E, F, G. E, F, G. I have to choose between these two. But I can't compare these two. So compare, I will do these two, E and G. If E is higher, E is the answer. If G is higher, so F is the answer. My vacancy has made my actual lower. If there was no vacancy, so this would have been my actual rent. In fact, next year क्या होगा? There will be no vacancy. So point G will not come only. And in the comparison of these two amounts, my F only will be higher. I am honest assessee. So reward me for my honesty by taking tax on F, which is my actual rent. And to keep it simple, compare E and G, choose between E and F. If E is higher, E is GAB. If G is higher, F is GAB. Samjha? That, ladies and gentlemen, is your big long calculation of GAB, the biggest calculation of this chapter. Believe me, the remaining calculations together are not as big as the calculation of GAB. ALB and actual, मतलब is there vacancy or no? Equal भी होगा तो I am honest, no? We can just say, अगर आप vacation पे हम लोग actual वाले, we can just say ना कि when equal taxing है, तो हम फिर जाते हैं, हाँ, but then G has to be equal, no? हाँ, वही तो वो तो किया है ना, G is greater than equal to, देखो last line. Okay, you understood, no? Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, very quick recap of the biggest and the most important calculation, because this calculation alone can come for 2-3 marks. Can you try without reading any note or without scrolling the tab? Try to learn it in class itself. Step number 1. If you are not able to give the answer, I will help you. Municipal valuation given. Fair rent given. Expected rent, whichever is higher. Standard rent only if applicable given. And market rent is derived. ALB or RLB. It is expected rent or standard rent, whichever is lower. But this is government ka market rent. We have to compare this with our actual rent. Actual rent also will be given, but actual rent will have two amounts, received or receivable. If we fulfill conditions, so we will take received, because we'll subtract unrealized rent. And if we don't fulfill conditions, so we will take receivable, because we have not fulfilled the condition. But ultimately, whether received or receivable, answer is that song. Kya? ALB or actual, whichever is higher. Correct hai? But then sometimes the actual may be lower, not because of my manipulation, not because of cash, but because of vacancy. Correct hai? So what to do? For comparison, add vacancy rent in actual. Compare after adding. Choose whichever is higher. If ALB is higher, directly take that as answer. But if your comparable actual is higher, it's not actual, it is comparable actual. If that is higher, then take actual real wala as your GAB. Ye clear hai? One last line for this last step is that what is the definition of vacancy period? They have actually defined that, because I hope you understand that here we are adding rent of which period for comparison? Vacancy period. So we should know what is vacancy period. They have defined it. Vacancy period is that period for which property was vacant. Wow. क्या डेफिनेशन है? Vacancy period is that period for which property was vacant. एक second, you find it funny, but there is some hidden catch here. Vacant matlab the property was locked, the property was unused. You know what they are trying to tell you here? It is possible that during a part of the year we were living in that property, it was not vacant. So the SOP wala period will be excluded from the period of vacancy because the property was not vacant. Matlab suno, April, May, June, July, I stayed in the property with my family. Listen to this carefully. I stayed. 1st August, I moved to a new property and expect that I will give this property on rent. August onwards, I try to find a tenant. But August, September, October, November, December, I don't get tenant. Finally, from 1st January, I get a tenant. Matlab actual rent will be 3 months. ALB will be 12 months. ये correct है? E 12 months. Actual 3 months. We will add vacancy period rent 5 months. August to December. Because April to July was not vacancy period. It was self-occupied. Yes, what will happen? 12 month ka figure will be compared with 9 month ka figure. The likelihood of ALB being higher hai because it's a 12 month ka figure. So that is unfair on the taxpayer. But bro, also note that 4 months you stayed with your family in the property and utilized benefits of the property. So it's okay to be a little unfair. And in any case, from next year onwards, so it will be full year ka rent and full year ka ALB. So this year it will be 9 month ka actual. How 9 month ka actual compared with 12 month? Because actual rent of 3 months and 8 months was na? 8 months. 8 months. 4 months was vacancy. So 3 months ka actual and 5 months ka vacancy will be 8 months ka rent will be compared with 12 months ka rent. 4 month ka SOP period will not be considered as vacancy. Clear wo everyone? That, ladies and gentlemen, is your first big step of calculation of income from house property. एक बात समझना जरा please, that income from house property का this final answer that you are getting is going to become a part of your NTTI, where in this amount में we will add other heads of income, salary, business, capital gain, other sources, which will give us GTI from which we will take deduction. मतलब we have to now go and individually find out the final answer of each of the heads of income so that we can take the total of them and get our NTTI. समझा क्या? हाँ, तो ये तो just one of the amounts in NTTI. Okay, and in that GAV is just one of the amounts. हाँ वही. There are some deductions in individual heads and then there are some deductions from the total of all the heads. Correct? हाँ.
This vacancy always based on months. What if the property is vacant for around 10 days or 3 days?
So you will take that in months only, but point wala months. Huh? Yes. Okay. Now tell me, GAV done. So calculation of house property over Nash. Nahin. Now what to do? You need to save a photograph of that format in your brain so that you know what we have to do. What we have to do now? Go to the next step. That is municipal taxes. Correct है? Municipal taxes का deduction will be given only and only if it is paid, and that also only and only if it is paid by the owner, the landlord. If you must have observed, even in the format that we made, I have highlighted these two things because these two conditions will decide whether I will get deduction. One thing you are clear about taxation, that any deduction is a tax benefit because that much amount will be reduced from my taxable income. So do you want deduction of municipal taxes? Only if the municipal taxes are paid. Dekho, when it comes to taxes of any form, do you understand the receiver on the other side is government of some level, central, state or local? So income tax law wants to ensure that when the receiver is any government, whether central government, state government or local authority, you should not keep that money outstanding. If the money is outstanding, you won't get tax benefit. That means if the municipal taxes have accrued but they are unpaid during the year, you won't get deduction. Deduction will be given only and only if they are paid. And second, you should be the person paying. Supposingly, I am making the tenant pay the property tax. Then I will not get deduction. I will not get deduction. Expenditure ka deduction you will get only if you have incurred that expenditure. And who is the assessee here? The owner. So one, it has to be paid, and two, it has to be paid by the assessee, the owner. Then only you will get deduction. So very quickly tell me, municipal, you will get deduction or no? Municipal tax of the current year outstanding, no deduction. Municipal taxes of the current year paid by the tenant. Are paid? Why? Tenant. Municipal taxes of current year paid by owner, landlord. Yes. Municipal taxes of last year, which was not paid last year and is paid in the current year. Is it paid by the owner in this year? So, suno. Good, I asked this. I thought it was very easy and obvious. You will get deduction. Suno, if 1 year I don't pay, I will not get deduction. Second year I don't pay, I don't get deduction. Third year I pay, total of the 3 years. So we are not interested in the year to which it pertains. We are not interested in accrual basis. Simply put, municipal taxes ka deduction will be on cash basis. मतलब supposingly municipal corporation is today giving you an offer कि 5 साल का property tax you pay in advance. We will give you 20% discount. Means 4 years के price में you can pay 5 years का money. We will give you no due certificate for the next 5 years. So I make that payment, full payment, to avail that discount. If I have money, I'll pay it. So whatever I have paid, some of it pertains to the next 4 years. I will get deduction now because I have paid now. Deduction will be on cash basis of accounting. Bola, so I think you have understood. Accrual doesn't matter. It is on cash basis. Only if paid, only by the owner, irrespective of the year to which it pertains.
5 years for deduction.
जितना पे किया है उतना डिडक्शन. सी यू आर पेइंग 100 rupees म्युनिसिपल टैक्स है, 5 years का 500 है, दे आर टेकिंग 400. यू जस्ट सी राइट नाउ आई एम पेइंग 400, आई विल टेक 400 का डिडक्शन. नेक्स्ट 4 years आई वोंट बी पेइंग एनीथिंग, नो डिडक्शन. इवन इफ 400 में से सम पोर्शन परटेन्स टू दोस years आल्सो, बट आई वोंट गेट एनी डिडक्शन. क्यों नहीं? क्योंकि आई एम नॉट पेइंग एनीथिंग. मतलब आई विल नॉट सी द अक्रूअल वाला ईयर, आई विल नॉट सी द ईयर टू व्हिच द टैक्सेस परटेन, आई विल सी द ईयर इन व्हिच आई हैव पेड. व्हाटएवर आई हैव पेड उसका डिडक्शन आई विल. Good question. So, if tenant has paid in the initial months, I am not eligible for deduction. But later I reimburse the money to the tenant. So, effectively I have paid. Same financial year, I will get deduction. Okay. By chance, assessing officer is asking me question, so I can keep some documentary evidence, some conversation between me and the tenant that you have paid, but I have paid him. So you can show your bank statement in which you have paid money to your tenant. You can take it. But practical advice is that property taxes also avoid making your tenant pay it directly by yourself, so that you can maintain the controlling ownership of the property and the tenant does not end up claiming any artificial ownership here. Clear hai? Sometimes your exam, especially because it is CA ka exam, okay, sometimes they will give you this amount in percentage. Question will be like this: municipal taxes 10% paid by owner. Question है ऐसा, actual exam question. They have not given you rupees, they have given you percentage. Question number 1: are the two conditions of getting deduction fulfilled? मतलब will we get deduction? Yes, but this time unfortunately we don't know the amount, percentage है. तो कैसे करेंगे? Supposingly my GAV is 6 lakhs. My GAV is 6 lakh. So I will take deduction of Popat. मार्केट वैल्यू नहीं, हे भगवान, नहीं 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 नहीं. Remember that municipal valuation was computed only for this objective, for annual property taxes, the first step in GAV. See, municipal valuation may ultimately become the GAV or may not become the GAV, because there are many other steps. But property tax will not be on GAV. Let me specify this also. Property tax is not attracted on. Property taxes will always come on municipal valuation. Objective behind that municipal valuation is only calculation of annual property taxes. It can't be a question without. Then अगर वैसा होगा तो they have to. तो how will you start the question? वो तो आपको TY BCom का हैबिट है, डायरेक्टली GAV they are giving. आपको पता है TY BCom के कोई क्वेश्चन में तो they directly give NAV. Forget that, sometimes so they directly give income from house property is this much, you just have to take the total. House property they give, PGBP give, they actually check whether you know how to click buttons on the calculators. Seriously. I gave CA intermediate का मतलब PCC होता था, and 2 months after that I had my TY BCom exam. I did not study a single word. We had accounts, we had costing, we had FM, and we had tax. All were 90 plus, 94, 93, 94, 93 without touching a single book for TY BCom. Because the level of CA inter is much higher than the income tax that they ask in graduation. Okay, so if they will either give you all the amounts and then give you a percentage wala municipal tax, or if they give you directly GAV, तो फिर municipal tax also they will give you in rupees, not in percentage. Clear hai everyone? Done, finished. GAV had how much steps? How many steps? 7. Municipal taxes 2 steps. Khatam. I hope you are not thinking, sir, GAV ko you gave so much time, municipal taxes you are finishing so fast, will it not feel bad? It does not have feelings. Nahin, it does not have feelings. Let's go ahead. Now what to do? Tell me the heading without opening the format again and again. NAV, net annual value. Fantastic. GAV done. Municipal taxes done. You have some brains, preserve for later, because here you don't need brain, you need a good quality calculator. Akkal hai akkal, that if GAV and municipal taxes, the two amounts are done, so GAV minus municipal taxes will become your NAV. Do you understand this? But then we can't leave NAV with one, at least 2 points we wrote for municipal taxes also. We can't hurt anybody's feeling. So we will write one more point only for NAV. If your property is SOP, where you can take maximum, as you are aware, 2 properties. So do you remember annual value is 0? Which one? Net one. We will not take GAV 0. SOP ka calculation will start with NAV equal to nil. SOP ka calculation will start with NAV equal to nil. Are you following? Because what is tax benefit in SOP? Annual value is 0. Which one? Direct net. Because वैसे भी GAV you take 0, तो क्या 0 में से you won't be subtracting municipal taxes. So directly start with NAV equal to 0. मतलब LOP DLOP का calculation will start with GAV, but SOP का calculation will start with NAV, and that also directly 0 होगा. That I'll come. No, अभी तो NAV पहुंचे. There is one more thing. Then we will go to interest. Personal houses still government wants to encourage. Don't sleep on footpaths. Film stars will kill you. So they will give you interest. We'll talk about it. Abhi we are at NAV. There are 2 more steps remaining in computing or completing our format. NAV के बाद what is the next thing? Standard deduction. Oh, deduction under section 24 is only the heading. The 2 deductions that we have is first standard, second interest. Let's learn them one by one. Have you done GAV? Municipal tax? NAV on your calculator, which you write in the amount column. Let that NAV remain on your calculator, because on that NAV only you are going to get a flat 30% standard deduction of your NAV. I already explained the meaning of standard deduction to you. As a landlord, all the multiple expenses that you incur will be taken care of here. We don't want you to keep individual records. You don't have that much time. This is investment. This is not business. So flat 30% of your NAV will be your standard deduction. Obviously SOP में it will be 0. Correct है? Abhi NAV for LOPs you will be writing GAV, you will be subtracting municipal tax. You have NAV. When you get this on your calculator, immediately you do into 30 divided by 100 या 30 percentage button या 0.3, it is all the same. So that will give you your standard deduction, which you will write in the inner column because we have one more deduction of interest. So standard deduction is flat 30%. But have we maintained the system of giving at least 2 points for all concepts? So we will not hurt the feelings of any concept. One more point, and you should know this, that there will be no deduction of any expense because everything is assumed to be covered and completed under standard. So other expenses like external repairs done by the landlord, other expenses like the maintenance which is charged by the housing society. In fact, housing society start charging higher maintenance. Other expense like insurance premium, we will not get deduction of any of these expenses because it is assumed, considered, taken for granted that the expenses are covered in this flat 30%. ये clear होता है? हाँ, लेकिन except obviously we have two deductions other than standard. One, we have municipal tax which we take against GAV, and we have one interest ka deduction which we take against NAV. Correct है ना? In the format. Observe the full format. There are total 3 deductions: municipal tax, standard, and interest. So when we say no other deduction, we can't, we will probably end up making a conceptual error thinking that no other, no, two are there at their respective places. Other than that, these type of expenses ke liye, there is no other deduction. They are taken as covered under 30%. But your property taxes are not covered under 30%. Your home loan ka interest is not covered under 30%. Ye clear hai? With this, do you observe, ladies and gentlemen? You had to ask something? No. All expenses of this property that you have and interest, no? Jo last one. So 30% will cover all expenses. You won't get any deduction of these expenses except the 2 deductions which are specifically mentioned, which I have also written. Okay. If you observe, in no time we have reached the end of the format. And by the way, after this interest, pro forma is over. Matlab introduction ka 5 points, pro forma ka computation. After this, we have about 3-4 other general points to be noted, and house property ka chapter is over. So if we at least start interest is slightly big. If we are able to complete interest because we have some time here, I must tell you that means in tomorrow's class we are left with only the other general points and questions. Tomorrow we will complete our first head of info. And today thoda awkward timing because you have some test. That kaun se subject ka test hai? Kya kar rahe ho in that 1 hour you are? What test you are appearing? हाँ, मतलब which sub का chapter का? Joint production by products. Employee cost. ऐसे overheads के अंदर it is not covered. तो very awkward timing for the day. तो ऐसा 2 hours में तो ऐसा लगता है you just started. हाँ, exactly. And again, not boasting about myself, but historically students have told me, sir, कि आपके क्लास में टाइम चला जाता है, we don't realize. Okay, ये अभी ठीक है, not everyone may agree to this. बोला कि सर हमको पूछो ना जाता है कि नहीं जाता है. तो still we have about 15 minutes and we have the last concept in this calculation. Last concept है ना, check करो format of income from house property. We have this last concept, interest on borrowed capital. Not as big as GAV, but not as small as municipal tax standard deduction also. Slightly big, but we have enough time that we will be able to complete this concept. First of all, understand, if a property is acquired out of borrowed funds, so will there be interest that you will be paying? Example is loan to buy property. So you will be paying EMIs. The EMIs will have some principal component and the EMI will also have some interest component. Correct or no? And I just gave you the suggestion in today's class that even if you have funds, take some small amount as loan. Correct? So we will give you deduction of that interest as a separate expenditure, because think about it. I am getting rent, so against that rent I am also paying the interest. You know, money received, money paid ka difference. Correct or no? So deduction will be given on due basis, whether it is paid or unpaid. मतलब look at how typical house property का chapter is. Municipal tax on payment basis, cash method of accounting. But interest on the loan that you have taken is accrual method of accounting. Due basis. Supposingly I have taken 10 lakh ka home loan 10% per annum. 10 lakh 10%, 10 lakh 10%. What is the annual accrued interest? 1 lakh. I pay EMIs or I don't pay EMIs, I will get deduction of 1 lakh, whether paid or unpaid. Municipal tax mein the rule will change. Municipal tax I will get deduction only if I pay, but interest ka deduction I will get whether paid or unpaid. Deduction will be on due basis, whether paid or unpaid. Ye correct hai? Only simple interest ka deduction will be given to you. Matlab compound interest, that is interest on unpaid interest, will not be allowed as a deduction. Supposingly 10 lakh ka annual interest is 1 lakh. Will I get deduction of that 1 lakh even if I don't pay anything? Yes, due basis. Second year, bank is charging me interest on 11 lakh. Kaise sir? Original principal and unpaid interest of 1 lakh. Matlab second year ka interest will be 1 lakh 10,000. Rule is whether paid or unpaid deduction will be given. But will that be 1 lakh 10,000 ka deduction? No. Only 1 lakh, that is original principal ka interest will be allowed. Compound interest is not going to be allowed. Only simple interest. Clear? Next. If the interest is paid to a non-resident or the interest is paid to someone outside India, then it is the duty of the payer to deduct a TDS, else we will not give you deduction. It is the duty of the payer to deduct TDS, otherwise we will not give you deduction. I will not take too much of time to discuss TDS with you because 1. TDS is a chapter in our syllabus. 2. At intermediate, the weightage of TDS is too small. 2-3 marks, maximum 4 marks, that also if. Final CMA TDS comes as a 14 mark ka separate question. Final CMA, I take 7 lectures of 3 hours each to do TDS. The full batch is 70 lectures. Matlab, can you understand that 10% of the batch I am teaching TDS? Weightage hai na bro, 14 marks, matlab we have to take it very, very seriously. Rough idea you should have about what is this concept of TDS. Whenever one person makes payment to another person, do you understand payer is source of income for the payer? For example, student paid the coaching class. Student is source of income for coaching class. Coaching class is paying the faculty. So coaching class is source of income for the faculty. Faculty is maybe paying some developer or website owner ya jo bhi hai who has given me some services for my day-to-day PGBP. So will I be the source of income for that particular pay? Matlab in one generic sentence, payer is source of income for pay. As a payee, do you have to offer the income to tax? Let's take coaching class and faculty ka example. Let us assume that I am getting 100 rupees to complete your batch. Actual amount bata raha hu. I am getting 100 rupees to complete your batch. So is the coaching class source of income? Do I have to offer that 100 rupees to tax? Matlab end of the year when my total income will be computed, it won't be this 100 only. There will be many other amounts. But out of the total, this 100 will also be a part of it. It was observed that there are a lot of people who are receiving income but not declaring their income. Cash mein to they are not declaring. There are some smart people who are receiving in check and still not declaring, because assessing officer cannot come and examine your independent every single bank ka entry, passbook ka entry. Bank mein I have received, I am passing journal entry, bank account debit to capital account, not recording only anywhere in my P&L account, and I am under declaring my income despite receiving bank mein money. So now what will happen? The payer will not pay me full 100. Payer will pay me, example, 10% TDS deduct करके 90. That means is that my loss? नहीं. That remaining 10 the payer has to still pay to the government. ध्यान से सुनना. And I can go and take that from the government. मतलब if you check the payer's point of view, without TDS they were paying 100. With TDS also they are paying 90 to me and 10 to the government. So payer is unaffected. Let's check the payee perspective. If there was no TDS, I would have received 100. If there is TDS, I am still receiving 100. कैसे? 90 from my payer and 10 I just have to go and tell the government, sir, मेरा 10 has come indirectly to you. Kindly return. Government can return it to me in two ways. End of the year, if I have tax liability, they will minus it from my tax liability. And end of the year, it is possible I have no tax liability because total income is less than 2,50,000. Basic exemption. Little idea you have? So they will give me refund also. Full refund. Matlab, will I get my 10 rupees back? Matlab, payer is unaffected. Payee is unaffected. Then why do we have TDS? Because when I will go to government and tell the government, sir, my 10 rupees, please give now. Government will be, which 10 rupees, bro? Kaun sa? Which 10 rupees? So I will have to say, sir, that 100 rupees that I have earned, usme my payer deducted 10 and gave you. Okay, fantastic. You are asking for refund of 10 rupees on that 100. Tell us in your computation, where have you shown that 100? If you have shown that 100, we will give you 10. This will keep a check on tax evasion. That is why we have TDS in our country. Ye hai domestic local TDS. When it comes to non-residents, TDS becomes a very, very important duty of the payer. Because think about it. If this non-resident is, if the coaching class is paying any non-resident and you don't deduct TDS, then that non-resident will take the money and go away. Then it will become very difficult for government to recover that tax. Income Indian hai, so that 100 should be taxed. But it will be difficult because he will take money and run away and we can't run behind him. So it's a duty of the payer, never release full money to non-residents. Resident ko to if you release full money also, no, residents are here only, we can recover from them. Still for not deducting, there will be some punishment. But non-residents ko, if you don't deduct TDS, that means you are creating a very, very big danger for income tax. And thus we want to be very, very strict. Every time you make any payment, here it is in place. But in general, any payment to non-resident, please make sure you correctly deduct the TDS. But then if you don't deduct, there has to be some punishment. No, otherwise you will not comply only. If you don't deduct, what is the punishment? Punishment is what you have to understand. Interest ka deduction normally is given due basis, simple interest. But if there is failure to deduct TDS, we will not give you deduction. So that you are encouraged to comply with the TDS obligations. Samjha? Everyone? Next. If it is in the same financial year, तो आप setting कर सकते हो. कैसे मैं आपको बताता हूँ. Supposingly you make payment of 100, जिसमें से you had to deduct 10. Then you make another payment of 100. In that you deduct 20 and give him 80. तो how will you prove it? Same financial year में होगा तो क्या I can tell you know कि ये वाला जो amount था ये 90% था. And reverse working के साथ I can do 100. हाँ, लेकिन नेक्स्ट फाइनेंशियल ईयर में होगा तो यू मे नॉट प्रोबेबली बी एबल टू डू दैट. आप समझे क्या? पॉइंट ई इज अ वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट फॉर रियल लाइफ एज वेल एज एग्जाम. दैट द पर्पस ऑफ द लोन, हैव यू टेकन अ लोन? द पर्पस ऑफ लोन शुड बी परचेस, construction, repair, renewal, reconstruction. That's it. Full stop. As a very, very clear rule, no sixth purpose will be allowed. The end use of your loan money. The end use of your loan money should be purchase, construction, repair, renewal, reconstruction. Only these 5 purposes. Any other purpose, any sixth purpose is not going to be allowed. Purchase, very easy. Ready-made building, pay money and acquire it. Construction, buy a land and use it to construct your house. Repair can be internal or external. Renewal can be, breaking the entire property internally and renovating it. And reconstruction means existing structure ko you demolish and in that place you construct a new thing. You need loan for these big expenses. And that should be only purpose of your loan. If you use your loan money for any other purpose, so it will not be allowed. The end use of your loan money should be one of them. I'll explain how. What is happening? Chiran is in some wild dream. Look at his eyes. Good morning. No, he is in someone's dreams. He has a crush on someone. Abhi graduate hai. Okay. And qualified. See, today you go and approach someone. No, so you don't have any ground. But in the next few years, as a qualified chartered accountant, you approach someone. And you, in fact, have good relations and she is also okay with, she hoga na? Confirm kar raha hu. She is also okay. So you visit her house and code language mein you tell, uncle, can I call you papa? Code language mein. So uncle ka ek condition hai, Chiran dekho, you are professionally qualified, I like you, everything is good about you. Uncle has only one problem, Chiran, you don't have a house of your own. And if you don't have a house of your own, I can't risk giving my daughter to you, which is fair enough. Correct hai? So Chiran was like, bas itna sa baat, uncle, you don't know, I am loaded with funds, I am a qualified chartered accountant. I will buy a property in the next week itself. Then is that fine? With his money, he purchases the property. But now money is over because property purchases is like that only. You have lots and lots of money and one day you have nothing because you purchased them. In fact, you have converted into liabilities because existing funds gone plus loan also. So now you need to get married. अब marriage के लिए भी there will be some expenses. You take a loan for getting married, मतलब marriage expenses का loan. Will you get deduction? No, because it has to be घर बनाने का loan, not घर बसाने का loan. Does that make sense to you? I'll give you a tax planning advice here. Use your own money for marriage expenses and take borrowed money for buying the house. So you will get deduction. समझा? Tax planning idea here. In fact, personal loan if you take, that will be 16% per annum. Home loan will be only 8% per annum. समझे?
कंस्ट्रक्शन का से बिल्डर है, उसने कंस्ट्रक्शन के लिए लोन दिया था। अब अनफॉर्चुनेटली वो 2 साल हो गया आपका जो सीसी वाला तो जब सब डीएलओ की हो गए, सब पे वो इंटरेस्ट डिडक्शन कर।
Builder will not be taking individual house के लिए loan. He will be going for something called project finance. But then पूरा का पूरा property का उसके builder के लिए तो it will become like the loan that he has taken to construct the building. Some of the properties will get sold. तो वो sales will be recorded in his P&L account, PGBP के अंदर. और उसके सामने whatever loan का interest he is paying, वो तो business expense दिखा के he will take the actual amount. No? Correct or no? So the purpose of loan should be purchase, construction, repair, renewal, reconstruction. No sixth purpose is allowed. There are 2 more points. G is big, but F is related to E. So at least F कर लूँगा. Otherwise, after a gap, then it will be difficult because new day we start on new page. No? So related है that if there is a loan taken to repay another eligible loan, so interest on this second loan, that is the new loan, will be, we have to fill in the blanks. 2 options are allowed ke disallowed. Let me first explain the question. I want the answer from you. I take a loan for purchase, construction, repair, renewal, reconstruction. One of the 5. Am I eligible? Assuming all the other conditions are fulfilled. Simple interest, due basis, everything is fulfilled. Will I get deduction? Yes, I will get deduction. Correct hai? But I want to change my bank. I borrow from bank 2 to repay bank 1. Correct? Hai? So now first loan is over, but I now start paying my EMIs to the second bank. Now when I took this second loan, have I done purchase, construction, repair, renewal, reconstruction? No. What have I done with the second loan? Repaid the first loan. Is second loan ka interest allowed or disallowed? Ye question hai. This matter went in Supreme Court. It was in the 70s. You were there? I was also not there. It was in the It was in the 70s. Assessing officer said only 5 purposes allowed. I will not give you deduction. Assessee ka argument also was there, no? Assessee said, sir, second bank se money leke, I have not brought the money home and put money on myself. Paisa karte. I have not made a bed of currency notes and then udta hi firu. I have not done all that. What have I done? I have not brought the money home. I have repaid the. In banking competition, sometimes when I am regular in paying my EMIs, other banks find out about me and they tell me, you are paying 8.5%, so I will give you 7.5%. Transfer your loan. If I transfer the loan and you deny tax benefit, then that whole thing will get over. And main point is, I have not brought the money home and used it for any other purpose. I have only changed my obligation from bank 1 to bank 2. But I am not making any other use of the money. And therefore, Supreme Court decided, today it is accepted because it's been more than 40 years now. Supreme Court said that second loan ka interest will also be allowed. If, I have written here in the condition itself, no. The old loan should be eligible. If the old loan is eligible, we will get deduction also on the second loan. Clear hua? So with this, bro, even the interest part is over. Ek last point hai. G, and after that other general conditions, house property ka calculation and house property ka chapter is over. We will continue in tomorrow's class. Thank you very much.